Hello and welcome to another day in paradise, and welcome to another edition of the Unapologetic Negropian. In today's video, what is a Garveyite? Have you ever heard that expression? There are some of you that might find that question a little easy to answer. However, we are going to analyze what exactly it means to be a true Garveyite. But first, and as always, I'm going to ask you to please like, subscribe, share, and click the bell notification. I haven't heard the name Garveyite or the term Garveyite ever before, not until a couple of weeks ago. And I must admit, I was a little bit skeptical when I heard this phrase. So when I heard about it and I started doing more research, I realized the connections it had with the Gambia and what's happening in Senegal and everywhere else. So I thought, let's just make a video about it so it would give more context to the videos that are going to be released this week. Essentially, this video is to prepare you for what is about to come. To answer this question, I think you need to look a little bit into who Marcus Garvey actually is. In 1914, he founded the United Negro Improvement Association. Yes, same one that is now part of the Exodus Alliance. Marcus Garvey was a journalist and activist, and he was a person that pushed the pro-black, black nationalist, Pan-African agenda. It was his belief that all black Africans in the diaspora should return to Africa and create their own black-run, African-run states on the continent. Back to the question, what is a Garveyite? Okay, I think the simple answer to this is a Garveyite is a person who lives their life vicariously through the life and philosophy of Marcus Garvey. Take a listen to this.
An article called Back to Africa by W.E.B. Du Bois. The article was very interesting, very important, because there are many leaders or people in our community nowadays who follow the same philosophies as Marcus Garvey, and not only do they follow his same philosophies, they also mirror the flaws that W.E.B. Du Bois pointed out in this article. First thing that W.E.B. Du Bois talked about in this article was the discourse of race. But W.E.B. Du Bois talks about the fact that Marcus Garvey came from Jamaica to Harlem. And when he came to Harlem from Jamaica, he brought with him his knowledge of the race problem that they have in Jamaica, and he tried to bring the same problems and the same intricacies and the same discursive practices in the discourse of race in Jamaica to the U.S.
Both the positives and the negatives.
Garvey was extremely outspoken. He was, some people would say, almost bombastic. He wanted to take over Africa and had elected himself as president of Africa without consulting the Africans, unfortunately.
Marcus Garvey was human, so he was prone to the same mistakes and misfortunes that we all are, right? Yes, he had his misgivings, and it was those misgivings which eventually landed him in prison for 5 years for telecommunications fraud. But we're going to get back to that a little later. How, of course, strong black men in the 1920s were always going to be seen as a threat to the United States government. It comes at no surprise that eventually he'd be taken out by the United States government, the victim of a conspiracy by the FBI, right? I think it's time to bring W.E.B. Du Bois onto the scene. W.E.B. Du Bois, or Du Bois, as you Americans would say, was another compatriot of Marcus Garvey and tried to support him on his quest for true emancipation of the African in America. Now, Du Bois and Garvey had similar aspirations to a certain degree. They both wanted economic empowerment of Africans all over the world, but they both had different philosophies on how to get that power. You see, Du Bois was a staunch Marxist. He was a socialist too, and he believed wholeheartedly that in order to get the economic empowerment needed, we would have to work with our allies too. Not just the ones our skin colour, but our white allies too. On the other hand, Garvey was a segregationist, and he only wanted to work with black people. Garvey also had imperialistic aspirations for the continent. He wanted to go there, and he wanted to go over there and take over and be king, which is a far cry from the communist aspirations of Du Bois. When Marcus Garvey was arrested, Du Bois set about trying to clear the name of Marcus Garvey by simply starting his own investigation into the wire fraud charges. However, when Du Bois went through the books, he found the same financial irregularities and inconsistencies that the authorities did. He openly shared his findings and got criticized by the African American community. The African American community saw Du Bois as being a traitor for helping the authorities to essentially prosecute Marcus Garvey. They all knew what the authorities were like. They'd seen how biased the authorities were. So they knew that the authorities were always going to win this one. Du Bois didn't really need to do this investigating, and he didn't really need to show the real outcome. The African American community wanted Garvey to be saved no matter what. Even if he was found guilty, even if he was wrong, what he was doing was wrong, they didn't care. They wanted his name cleared. Ultimately, Du Bois was branded an agent by the African American community for helping the authorities to have the Jamaican Marcus Garvey committed to prison for 5 years. And so now we know a little bit of a backstory about Marcus Garvey's history and who he was. Now I think we have some of the tools to try and build a profile of who a Garveyite actually is, a true Garveyite. A Garveyite is someone who wants other diasporans to come back to Africa and take over the continent. A Garveyite is someone who has a delusion of grandeur and thus will normally exaggerate their own credentials. A Garveyite is someone who doesn't mind bending the rules or even breaking them if it means furthering their own agenda. They seemingly have no morals and no conscience. They will do what they need to do in order to get their goal. So now you know where I was going with this. Now you know what a true Garveyite is. What has this got to do with you? Well, Garveyites don't work alone. Garveyites work in teams, like packs of wolves when they go out hunting. And the prey? You. Us, in the diaspora. We are the prey. They use our emotions, our ties with our continents, our pain, our emotional struggle that we still have to comprehend with, to build this illusion in our mind that they are the people, that they hold the key to the promised land of Africa. So Garveyites don't just stumble into being a Garveyite. There's a lot that comes before that. There's a lot of studying, of course, and they don't just follow some sort of rule book. They immerse themselves into the life and the philosophy and the good and the bad traits of Marcus Garvey. Once they do that, there are groups in Africa, already prepped groups. Not just a gang, but more like a mafia-styled organized crime syndicate, like a well-oiled machine that essentially is there to prey on African diasporans who want to move back to Africa. You know, I kind of wish I wasn't serious about this. Personally, I wish that this was just some sort of gimmick, a story that I sort of stumbled on, but it's more than that. This is real. This is very real. They are very proficient at what they're doing. These groups really exist. Now, these groups operate throughout the African continent. It's not just in West Africa. And they are master manipulators. You saw in the video that I put Tanya, Sister Ya, as you should call her. I put Sister Ya in the video. Here is a woman who is probably one of the most distrustful people I have ever encountered. It's incredible. And we are putting there are people out there that are putting all their hopes into this woman, and money as well, which is an absolutely bad idea. For many of these group members, Africa is the end game to them. They would never go back to the United States now. There is too much of a risk of prosecution there. They've done too much now in order to turn back. They've built their lives and solidified it on the African continent. And they do their business with absolute impunity. It doesn't matter whether you've got cancer. It doesn't matter if it's your children's college fund. It doesn't matter. They will lie to you. They will lie to you to take that money off you. And once it's gone from you, you watch them. Have you ever perhaps tried one of their services, spent money with them? They'll call you almost every single day. They'll call you until you give them the money, and then all of a sudden, the calling stops. Why am I telling you all this? Well, for a number of reasons. It's to make sure that you have the information that will empower you to make a more informed decision before going to the Western Union and sending over $5,000 to a bunch of crooks with inflated prices and underperforming services. And it doesn't stop there. I'm afraid the rabbit hole goes way, way deeper. And over the next few weeks, I'm going to be uncovering other stories, all linked back to bloody Art Cathey, which is incredible. It's incredible that she's just flung the door open, right, to the eyes and ears of the entire world. Everyone is looking at this tiny country, the Gambia, simply because this woman can keep her mouth shut. I have a lot more stories to uncover. I've been really, really hard at work. So please, thank you for being patient. We have some great videos that are coming your way. And boy, you guys are gonna love this. Do any of you guys have any experience with the Garveyites? Do any of you guys know what a Garveyite is? Do you have a different perspective on what a Garveyite is? Please let me know in the comments section below. Do you have any questions or queries? Please let me know in the comments section below, or you can email me at tuntalks@gmail.com. That is tuntalks@gmail.com. Okay, so that's it from me for today. Guys, thank you for listening. Thank you for supporting. Thank you for watching. And I will see you in the next one. Until then, think twice, Tuara a bit.